What's good, fam? It's Mr. Kelly with Good to the Hood, talking about anything and everything that impacts the culture. And today I want to talk about Shedeur Sanders. This isn't a sports channel, but I feel like this has impacted the culture in a big way. And my 2 cents is this. Look, I'm just going to put that. Oh, hey, look, congrats to Travis Hunter being picked number 2 overall for the NFL Draft 2025. Congrats to him. 2 positions he's going to play, so good for him. I like him. He's a good kid from what I've seen and from what I know, what little bit I know of him as far as obviously just as a fan and, sports and so on and so forth. But anyway, that's without saying. Shedeur, I feel like, I'm just going to get right to it. Shedeur, I think, is kind of getting the shaft, to be honest. I really thought that he was going to go maybe to the Giants or even Pittsburgh. And he didn't. He didn't get picked at all last night for the first round of the draft. And there's going to be obviously a lot of debate and so on and so forth. But look, here's my 2 cents. Here's my 2 cents on the whole deal. Shedeur Sanders is arguably very cocky, very flashy for sure. But like, to me, so what? Like, so what? There's been plenty of athletes that have been very cocky or arrogant or whatever, and they still produce. Look, Ocho Cinco was that way. Terrell Owens was that way. Cam Newton was that way. So on, the list goes on and on and on. I don't have no problem with that personally. So I think that's for that to be in the forefront of a lot of his career. And I just think look, his dad was that way. So what would make you think that the apple would fall that far from the tree, right? Deion Sanders, I'm a big fan of his. Loved what he did with the Cowboys. Loved what he did with Atlanta. I'm not a baseball fan, but I am aware of his success and accolades in baseball. Deion was cocky, talked a lot of whoop-de-whoop, but he backed it up. So, I mean, you think that his son wouldn't be that way, right? Okay. But let's go ahead and get it down to brass tacks here of maybe why he wasn't picked. Again, like I said, he's very flashy, but I believe him to be confident and not conceited. And there is a difference. You see a lot of chattering going on social media saying, oh, well, if he was humble this, maybe humble that, whatever. Let's not confuse confidence and arrogance first and foremost. And also, humility or being humble doesn't mean that you are self-loathing or don't acknowledge your gifts or talent. And I think that's all this kid is doing, right? I haven't seen him talking trash about anybody. To me, that would be different. If he was to say that this player is garbage or this player is garbage or this whatever. But what athlete, and especially in the professional realm, what athlete doesn't brag and boast that he feels he's the best? Right? So I don't see the problem with that. And I think the perception is because of his confidence, this may honestly impact whether or not he's gotten drafted. And the reason being, I think, is because coaches or teams or whatever may look at it as he's not coachable. And I haven't heard or seen anything to indicate that Shedeur is not coachable. I haven't seen that. Maybe that is the case. I haven't heard or seen that. And for those of you that don't know, I am in Colorado. And so hearing about Shedeur and seeing him on interviews and newscasts and various blogs and so on and so forth, it's very common here because obviously what he's done in CU. Him and his dad have done, right? And let's not let's not mistake that. I believe Deion, with or without Shedeur, was going to improve what was going on at CU. I mean, they were like 1-11, right, before Deion got there, and then I think they went to like 4-7, right, and then they improved from that to I think they won 9 games in 2024, right. So there's improvement there, right. There's only so much that can be done in 2 seasons. But Deion did great things as well at Jackson State. So when Shedeur comes out and says that he feels maybe there's some hate because of the family name or because of his dad or whatever, I think that does play a part. I mean, again, if the perception is he's not coachable, that's going to impact things. But let's not forget that the NFL, like any other multi-billion-dollar organization, is filled with politics. And to think that everything is strictly and solely only based on numbers, no, you're just lying to yourself. You're just being, that's just delusional. Because who's that young man that got picked that the Giants picked? Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart. And look, and I'm not hating on that young man either. But what I am saying, if we're going to base it on stats, Shedeur had better stats than Jackson Dart. So for him to get picked in the first round and Shedeur to not get picked, there's politics. There's other things there other than stats. There's absolutely some improvement needed by Shedeur from a football standpoint, for sure. He holds onto the ball a little bit longer than he should sometimes, and he doesn't scramble as well as maybe he could. But these are things that the progression that he's shown shows that he can still progress and be a better player, as they all are, right? So his numbers aren't horrible. You know what I mean? I mean, what is he? He's 6'2", 215. He's thrown, I think, for 4,100 some odd yards, 74% accuracy. He's not the greatest, but he is good. And the thing is, what's crazy is before on Good Morning Football and ESPN and all these other sports outlets, they were saying Shedeur was top 5. Then they were saying he was top 10. Then even top 20, because it was projected that the Steelers were going to pick him at 2021, spot 21 in round 1, which they didn't. So he hasn't gotten picked. So there's obviously some other politics involved in here. And so, look, I just saw so much on social media, I just had to bleed out my little 2 cents here, because I think he's a good player. I think he's going to have a bright future. He is going to get drafted. He wasn't in round 1, but he is going to get drafted. Somebody's going to scoop him up, for sure. And hopefully this is just going to be more fuel for him to go ahead and prove the haters wrong. But I'm not going to hate on no young man that's trying to make it. And if you really listen to what he has said and what his father has said and so on and so forth, he's been polite, been respectful, hasn't degraded nobody. Sure, he's a little flashy, throws his rollie up in the air. So what? So what? Fortunately, he's already worth $10 million because of the new NIL rules and so forth, right? The name, image, and likeness type thing. So he's going to be okay. And he is going to get scooped up. And I hope he's successful. I hope Shiloh's successful. And I hope Travis Hunter is successful. Anybody hating on the brother, it's just that. It's just hating. Because look at the numbers. If it's really just only about football, his numbers are better than Jackson Dart. And again, I'm not hating on him. I'm just saying, we're just looking at stats, right? So don't be mad because somebody's confident. And there's nothing to show that Dion, because I've seen this too. Well, Daddy's going to call and do this and that and do some shadow coaching. Maybe, I don't know. But I've heard nothing and seen nothing in any documentaries to indicate that Dion is going to do that. That he's going to do that. And truthfully, if Dion's going to shadow coach for free, well, good for the organization that gets that coach for free then. And people talking about, oh, his daddy's going to make phone calls and blah, blah, blah. The Mannings made phone calls, right? Nobody said nothing about that. Clay Matthews' family, there were phone calls made there as well. You know what I mean? So, look, if your dad is in the position to kind of help open up some doors or nudge you in, be it a LeBron James, be it the Mannings, be it whatever, hey, so be it. Hell, I wish my dad was in a position to he could have helped me a little bit more in life. Such is not the case, and that's why I'm here on YouTube. But nonetheless, look, that's my 2 cents. That's my little rant on Shedeur Sanders and this whole thing in first round of the draft. But until next time, this is Mr. Kelly with Good to the Hood. Peace.